Okay, good morning, everyone. Apologies again. We had a power failure here, and then everything took a while to reboot. So, welcome to the age of technology. My name is Stan Kumar. I'll be chairing the meeting today, and I guess want to do some brief introductions, but I guess in the interest of formality, in accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. Would like to do some introductions. On my left is Dominic Gully. Also on my left is Natalia Popovic. My other fellow committee members on my right is Laura Alderson and Bill Dalton. And I'd also like to introduce Barbara Bertozik, who is the manager for Etobicoke, York, and all of her staff that have been dealing with all of our, trying to get all our technology going again. Welcome and good morning. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to separate property to create new lots. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Hudnots. I always have a problem with this one. Hudnots, thank you, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And it is now home to many First Nations, including Inuit and Métis peoples. We are also acknowledged that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. The hearing procedure. The Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person. Others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx on the online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be contacted with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, the camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during the video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Receiving a copy of the decision of the committee. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, as the Committee of Adjustment of the Toronto Local Appeal Board will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body. In some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and greatly removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons, and public bodies as those items are defined in the Planning Act are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Just go through some hearing procedures now. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When making your submissions, where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. We will comment when you are reaching 5 minutes. Any presentations or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantial revisions are required to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all of those entitled to notice of the application are informed of these changes. Then individuals either in support or opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has the opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the other speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for decision. Okay. To start, we will look at minutes of the last meeting. Do we have? So I'm looking for a motion for the was it February 8th, I believe?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I move to accept the minutes.
Okay. Ms. Popovic, is there a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Mr. Ghaly, all in favor? Minutes are adopted. Okay. So, does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare either by staff or for the morning session or for panel members? Seeing none. Just want to get back to my electronic agenda. Okay. Any closed files, Madam Chairman? No? Okay.
None today, Mr. Chair.
And we have some deferral requests. I believe the first one is item 1. And the speaker for that is, I don't know if it's online or in person. I'm assuming online. Okay. Is it Mr. Bandoran?
Faranak, I've unmuted you. Faranak, perhaps try exiting the meeting and dialing in via the teleconference instructions that were provided. From what I've been seeing, there's been a bit of an issue connecting virtually. So Faranak, if you can hear me, can you please log off and log in via the telephone? Thank you.
Okay, so then I believe item 11, there's also a request from deferral from staff. So perhaps we can speak or ask the agent, Mr. Rubinski.
So my name is Jerzy Rubinski. I'm the applicant and owner of 150 Melrose. I am aware that planning staff, or the planning staff report, does recommend a deferral or refusal of the application. Unfortunately, the drafted planning staff report that was approved on this application on revised drawings with 2 conditions did not make it on the file. And I was seeing if it was possible for committee to consider an unofficial approval through email correspondence by city staff on the uploaded adjusted drawings attached as extra material, or would it be possible to attach a condition to the application? The application would only be granted when an approved staffing plan would be received.
Okay, interesting request. Now, in the added materials, you've also made some changes to one of the variances?
So the variance to satisfy planning staff, the structure was moved towards the south, so to the interior, to the back wall of the main dwelling, which triggered the one variance, which is a sub variance within.
Okay, but is it a new variance, or are you amending an existing variance? There's no such thing as a sub variance.
No, it is. Yeah, it is a new variance, but it's within the subsection of that variance with dealing with angular planes. So one is front, one is side, and one is back. So moving the structure slightly, I think it was 1 meter towards the south, triggered that variance. But this was done in order to improve the angular plane penetration towards the rear lot line.
So you're saying you're improving the variance that was sent out in the notice?
The rear yard variance was improved, but in doing that, it triggered the front wall or rear front wall variance.
Okay,
there's angular plane.
So you're adding another variance, which we really can't do unless we reissue notice. So irrespective of.
Well, there's a little bit of confusion. Like there have been applications in the past where if the variance was seen as minor and it was not impacting any of the properties to it negatively, the committee does have the power to add a variance if they do, recognize that.
Okay, I'm assuming the main reason you don't want to defer is because for time constraints. But I don't think we have a huge lineup of items here at Etobicoke. So if that's your principal concern, I think it would be. I mean, I'm going to leave it up to my fellow members to decide what they want to do on the deferral. But typically, if you're adding a variance, we do need to reissue notice, and therefore we would have to defer.
Yeah, I do understand that in most cases that is something that would be done.
And why is your case different?
Considering that this is a minor addition to a variance that has no negative impact on any of the properties, and there are cases where committee has seen that the variance that is being added, there wouldn't be any benefit to recirculating it, that it wouldn't change the notice. But if if the committee members don't agree with that, then I'll go ahead with the deferral.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? All right. There's also a speaker, a neighbor on the line as well. Perhaps we can just have a word with that individual as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the neighbor that had registered to speak is not on the call.
Okay.
We have reached out to them, but they haven't joined the call.
Okay, so basically it comes down to we've got the applicant's input on the deferral, and members, it's really up to us whether we.
Is there anyone present in the room for 150 Melrose Street?
Thank you. Forgot.
Chair, just
Mr.
a comment. I think it's imperative that we understand as a panel what variances are before us And if the variances are different than what has been circulated or what has been posted.
Sorry to
in the
interrupt, Mr.
community.
Chair.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong item. The neighbor registered to speak is here.
Okay, perhaps we can.
Lauren, I was still on item 1. My apologies.
Sorry.
So, Chair, just in closing my comment, we need to have the variances before us. We need to understand what it is that we're dealing with. And we can't deal with an application that variances are identified at the hearing.
Fair enough. I mean, there's two issues here. I'll get to the neighbor in 1 second. I just don't want to lose this train of thought. I mean, there's two issues. And one, the applicant claims there's a positive planning report, which we haven't seen, and which technically we can't see. And the other one is that there is potentially another variance being added. So is Lauren available now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lauren. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry we
okay.
lost you there.
That's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Hi. Yeah, so I live at 45A Algoma. So I would be the, I guess, backyard neighbor to 150 Melrose. My question was just around the structure itself. In the diagram that we received in the mail, it's not super clear of what the structure will look like in terms of like privacy.
Okay,
So I'm not
so
sure.
So what we're proposing is to defer this item so you would get a new mail out with new, I guess, new documents and new drawings. So with regards to deferring this item, I'm assuming you would be in favor of doing that.
Yes.
Thank you. Committee members, any other?
I'm ready to make a motion if no one else has any comments. I did want to make one comment. The very nature of this particular variance, angular plane, affects the neighbors. So it's imperative that this is listed in a public notice. So I'm going to move for deferral.
We have a motion on the floor. Ms. Popovic?
I concur with the comments of my colleagues and also that there is an overarching notice issue.
All in favor? Okay, the item is deferred. Thank you, Mr. Rubinski. Madam Secretary Treasurer, I believe those were the only two items for deferral on the morning.
Yes, we're just going to go back to item 1 because we weren't able to get them.
Oh, right, okay. So Adam, do we have the agent for item 1 now?
I've unmuted the agent for item 1. I'm hoping that it works this time. I did tell the agent to call in, but he has, again, decided to log in via the computer, so we'll see.
I think he's logged in twice, so we'll have to check both connections.
Don't we love technology?
Hi, Farnak.
Hi, how are you?
Great. We can hear you. Awesome.
Yeah, yes, I can hear you right now.
Okay, so I believe you've requested a deferral, as have staff. Are you still wanting the deferral?
Exactly. We would like to defer it, but the technician actually told me that we have to participate in the meeting right now and ask the team to defer our actually case to the next step. I mean, to defer it to reschedule it, I think. Am I right?
Yes, that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, perfect. What should I do at this step, sir?
Just give us a reason for the deferral.
We have to send you the email, you mean?
No. Just say you want to talk to planning, you want to speak
Yes,
with
we would
neighbors.
Yes, we would like to defer it because, as I know, the notice, the zoning notice a little bit changed, and we have to defer it to.
Okay, perfect. So you want to defer
provide it.
to correct the notice. Thank you.
Exactly.
That's all we need. Thank you very much. I'm just going to ask your
Okay,
neighbor
and
who's
do I
also on
have-
the line.
And do I have to actually be in the meeting, or I can leave it right now?
It's happening right now. This is the meeting and it's happening right now. This is your deferral request. So just hold on for
Okay,
just hold on for 2 minutes, okay?
Sure. I
Thank
will.
you. Do we have Michael on the line?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, we do not have Michael on the line. We did reach out to Michael, but Michael isn't still not on the line.
Okay.
Is there anyone present in the room for 277 6th Street?
Okay, if not, is there someone ready for a motion?
Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. Move that the application be deferred at the request of the applicant, as well as planning, in order to clearly identify variances.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Okay, the item is deferred. So your item has been deferred. Thank you. We're done.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so then we're back to the regular agenda, starting with item 2. And let me just pull that up.
بیام بیرون مهسا جان.
Okay, so item 2 is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. It is for 337 Maple Leaf Drive. The application has been revised. There still are a total of 11 variances, 3 of which have been reduced. Forestry is requesting conditions 2 and 3. Transportation Services has 3 conditions in the event of a deferral requested. TRC has advisory comments, and planning is recommending refusal. We have a letter of opposition from 335, and we have a letter of support from 339. There's also someone with a question regarding an easement at 333. And the agent for this application is Frank DiGiorgio. And is Frank on the line?
Frank is in
In
person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure I'm not too close to the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular application is rather unique. And let me begin by stating that a year ago, tomorrow, I had my first meeting with the planning department. And I explained to the planning department the nature of the uniqueness of this application, simply because the applicant has legal nonconforming status under both the Planning Act and the Building Code Act. And that has great significance. And so when we discussed the original proposal, that I want to just point out, if you have a site plan, I just want to, if you can put up the site plan for me, you'll see the original proposal where the garage was on the west property line. And so that...
Okay, before we get into all of that, I'm going to pause your time and maybe we'll get some questions up front. When you say original proposal, are you going back to the building application you referred to from the 80s?
No, I'm talking about a building proposal where the house being constructed was flipped so that the mirror image, the garage was up against 335 and the tunnel leading to the house was up against 335.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I mean by the original proposal.
Okay.
And so in that context, I want to talk about all the improvements that were proposed in our discussion that would help improve the quality of the application.
Because just to clarify, the application we're dealing with is an application for variances. It's not an application to maintain a legal nonconforming use, because a legal nonconforming use doesn't exist.
Does not exist?
Have you built a house there?
There's an existing building on the house with a valid building permit. The next door, each of the owners have a valid building permit.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about, legal nonconforming status under the Building Code Act. Okay, so the variances, Mr.
So,
Chairman, and
Mr. Chair-
I don't want to be argumentative.
No, but just to clarify, we're not dealing with the building code, we're dealing with the Planning Act. This application is not a lawful non-conforming application. So perhaps you could just explain your application, not getting into legal non-conforming, because
Sorry,
that's
Barb,
not
can you
before
sort
the
of-
committee today.
All right, let me just, the owner would.
I just want to clarify what it is that we're actually hearing.
Let me just deal with the variances, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
There's
you.
two.
That's what I'd like you to do.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, reset
the
it.
fact of the matter is, and I'm just asking you to hear me out. There is an existing building on the site,
A garage.
a garage, and it's about 8 meters in length. And what we're being asked to do is to add a house, a new house, and set it back 60 feet. In that sense, it's a very site-specific application because people in that area are not asked to build a new house and set it back 60 feet. So this is a site-specific application, and it applies to 3 properties and 3 properties only, 339, 337, and 335. Why? Because each of them have legal non-conforming reverse slope driveways. And recent changes to the official plan basically say, we don't want reverse slope driveways. And as a matter of fact, what the city has done in the R zone is to give incentives so that if people remove reverse slope driveways, they don't have to provide parking on their site anymore. Not only that, the official plan says in new build situations, even in an RD zone, if somebody is constructing from scratch on a vacant lot, they don't have to provide parking anymore. This is not a new build situation. This is adding a house, a detached house, at the back of the, and so if we confine ourselves only to the house, because there are 2 basic uses on this site, a garage use and a detached house was confined to living space only. So let's try to separate that into 2 separate uses on the site for me to address the variances.
Okay, you're confusing now because you're saying there's an existing house.
I didn't say that. I said there's an existing garage.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is nobody says I have to demolish it.
No, you don't.
No, the zoning code, the zoning review. Okay. All right, so let's look at the variances. What's happening in the first variance is that we're asking to set the, let's call it the house and the detached garage, back 13.1 meters. Under the first proposal, it was set back 12.2 meters because the existing garage is set back 12.2 meters. So when I ask for a variance to move the existing garage from 12.2 meters from the street to 13.1 meters from the street, I'm not sure that's a variance. That's an improvement. And that's the fundamental problem that exists here.
It's still a variance, but it's an improvement over the current situation.
It's not,
Is
I'm
the
not
way I
asking,
would phrase it.
okay. Semantics. Am I improving the situation or am I not?
That's what we look at when we
Okay,
approve
so that's fine.
variances.
So the first variance is that. The zoning bylaw, with respect to side yard setbacks, the zoning bylaw says the minimum required side yard setbacks is 5 feet on each side. That's what's being proposed here, 5 feet on each side, except for the garage. The garage is being set back 4 foot side yard. Well, a 1-story garage without living space on top, not considered really a major variance. That's what's proposed. I'm so sorry, my mouth is dry because of the complexity of this situation. There is no variance with respect to the height of the house. There's no variance with respect to FSI on the lot. There's no variance with respect to density, as I say. There's no variance with respect to massing of the house. And there's no variance with respect to the type of house. In other words, in that area, there are lots of detached houses with detached houses with attached garages, lots of them. This one is unique. And this is probably the most important point. You'll notice that there's a garage, and then there's a connecting platform from the back of the garage to the house, okay? And there's a very special reason why the design of the house had this connection, because it's to accommodate a covered ramp. The owner, his parents, the owner of 337, his parents are sick. I know the parents personally. I know them for over 15 years. And so in a way, I have a personal attachment here because I know what they're trying to accomplish. I know what the owner is trying to accomplish with that tunnel. Let's call it whatever. But the reality then becomes, is it an attached garage?
I'm going to let you go another minute because I did interrupt you, so please continue.
I need a drink of water, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry. Can you give me 1 second?
Okay.
There's a fountain just outside the door. So.
Thank you. Thank you, members. So the issue before you, I guess, is it's definitely not a detached garage, let's say. I think we can agree. Is it an attached garage? Well, if it's an attached garage, there has to be a common wall between the house and the garage. That's the nature of an attached garage. It's not what's called an integral garage, where the garage is embedded totally within the house. This is kind of a hybrid. What's being proposed here is, you know what? It's a detached garage, but it resembles an attached garage. And so the question becomes, that particular connecting piece of building creates a length problem.
Yeah.
And the question becomes, do we reduce the length that's being requested as a variance by eliminating this connecting piece of...
I'm going to cut you off, but I'm going to paraphrase what I think you're trying to say.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to cut you off on time, but I'm going to paraphrase what I think you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay? So basically, you're saying that the length variance is purely because of the garage and is being treated as an attached garage.
That's right.
What is the overall length of the house without the garage and without the connection point?
Well, it would reduce it by about 2.5 meters.
Okay, but would you still be over the 17 meters in length then?
Oh, and it's an interesting point. The variance with respect to the 17 meters is from 17 to 17.81. That's all that's being requested with respect to length of the actual house.
Okay. So what you're basically arguing is that we shouldn't consider the length of the garage in the overall length
of the house.
Of the house.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, but that's not what the zoning review does.
No, we understand, and I think you've made the point of the uniqueness of your situation. So, I think the other thing is that what you didn't do, but there are houses to the east, to the west of you, which are of similar length, which you haven't. Yeah, but
to the east, excuse me, 341, for example.
Yeah, I understand, but anyway, if I were doing the presentation, I would have made those points that.
Well, I'm getting to those points.
But you're out of time, so.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that, but that's part of the complexity of the application, Mr. Chairman.
So it's not unusual for the immediate context.
The immediate context, yes, is the adjoining neighbors, the adjacent neighbors, okay? But that's because it's site-specific application. The surrounding area, if you look at the aerial view, has lengths that are unreal. 317 Maple Leaf, for example.
Yes, because you have very deep lots there. So we get that. I just wanted the members to have that context.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And if I had time, I would tell you a story about 317 Maple Leaf, which was approved at 37 meters in length.
Unfortunately, we don't have the time.
Okay, I know you don't have time.
And I'm going to have to cut you. I will have you come back because I believe there's other speakers, which we're going to let them say their piece, and then we'll have you come back, okay?
Thank you.
Unless there's any questions from any other members at this point.
I just have a quick comment. It's not just community planning that wants it refused. Urban forestry actually wants it refused because of the mature trees on that lot. So
I'm sorry, which,
Urban
did you
forestry is
say
only
the Transportation
requested
Department?
refused, deferred, or number one?
No, there's no refusal from forestry.
That's not, that's in my notes. I had a number 5.
No, there will be no refusal from forestry. They had no problem with the tree. The tree is
Barb?
being preserved.
Barbara, I see a condition 2 and 3. I don't see a
For
5.
item 2, we don't have a standalone forestry report.
Okay, we take
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
We take that back. There is no forestry
could you
issue.
please allow me one other point that I want to make
take
with respect to the driveway? Because transportation has agreed that we will deal with that. But,
We understand that. There's 3 conditions of transportation. We'll get to that.
okay, but what I want you to also, and I'll come back and.
Please,
Thank you, Mr.
okay?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to the next speakers, Linda and Irene are present but will not be speaking. They will be represented by Mark, who is virtually on the line, and I'm going to unmute him momentarily.
Okay, Mark, let us know when you're there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The name is Mark Kemmer. I'm here on behalf of the immediate neighbors at 335 Maple Leaf Drive, and you have my letter of February 12th in front of you. And in that, I set out my client's concerns with respect to the impacts of this proposal, particularly with respect to drainage, overlook, privacy, and I note in there that their concerns are particular to the proposed variances 2, which deals with side yard setback, with proposed variances 3, which deals with maximum building permitted length. I note there that the increase is 10 meters, which is significant both numerically and contextually. They're concerned with respect to the variance 6 with respect to the exterior side main wall height, and with respect to variance 10, which is the maximum permitted driveway width. So what you have here is a situation where, in terms of the applicant's submissions and their letter dated January 14th, the applicant wants to have their garage and add it to. The proposed variances will result in an egregious increase in building length that will cut off, in our view, natural light and leave my clients who have a much smaller house, if you want context, if you want to look at, for example, the provisions of 4.1.5, a much smaller house, they'll be facing this massive 2-story large wall. And we agree and adopt the concerns of the planning report, which state, as my clients are concerned, that the proposed dwelling substantially extends beyond the rear main walls of both adjacent neighbors, which may create adverse shadowing and visual impacts. And they recommend in that report that the length be greatly reduced to be more compatible with that context, with the immediate adjacent neighbors. And what's the response of the applicant to that? They have made minimal revisions to the variances to address those concerns. It's my view and my submission that the submissions you heard from the applicant's representative right now are essentially just smoke and mirrors. This is going to be a very large house on this lot. It will be out of context and it represents overdevelopment. And you note that also again from the submissions or the comments made by city planning. So we are here today to request that the committee, as city staff in their professional opinion request, that the committee refuse this proposal, refuse the variances on the basis that it does represent overdevelopment of the lot. It is a new build. It is not a legal non-conforming use. The applicant previously sought a consent to divide the lot. Now they've come back with a different proposal, which is to overdevelop the lot. And on that basis, we are respectfully requesting that this committee refuse the variances. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have with respect to my client's concerns.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from panel members?
I have one question, Mr. Chair. Mr. Agent, your letter of opposition references variances 2, 3, 6, and 10. What is your position on the balance of the variances requested?
Well, I think they are, I mean, if you look at, we should have actually, number 4 deals with new dwelling length. We think that, individually and cumulatively, that the variances result in this oversized house, which is overdevelopment of the lot. And even if you look at the roof eave projections, we haven't listed that in our letter, but that would be a concern because they're projecting further out by a considerable amount than what's permitted. So I would say that individually and cumulatively, all the variances result in a house which is too big for this area and too big for this lot. And will have those adverse impacts, as I stated, on my clients and also on the other neighbor.
Thank you.
Chair, I just had a question with respect to context. Your client's home, could you give me an idea as to what the age of the home is? And also,
The age of the home?
Yeah, roughly. Vintage, what year?
Sorry, I guess what they're in the audience there. I would ask maybe that they come up and speak to that. They can provide you with that information. I don't have the exact date of the house.
How about the length of the lot? Either the applicant's lot or your client's lot. What's the
Sorry,
length
can you
of
repeat the
these
question?
lots along Maple Leaf?
Well, you can see from the they vary in length because of the
Sure.
some are longer. This is a longer lot for sure, and that's
Any
why. for
idea
example,
how
you'll
long
have
these
a
lots
variance
are?
with respect to
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
that.
I can answer that question.
Need your name and address first?
My name is Irene.
Chair, I was directing the question to the speaker.
I'm the owner of the adjacent house.
Okay.
My name is Irene Leslie, and I live at 335 Maple Leaf Drive, which is to the west of the proposed application. Our house was built approximately 1954, and the size of the lot, the depth is approximately 335 feet.
The length of the lot is 335 feet long.
Yes, yes.
And the house was built in early 50s.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if I can just add on to that question, which I think I understand where you're going, that these are long lots. However, the way in which this house is proposed to be situated, particularly with respect to the garage in front, and the size and length of the house means that the impacts at the front of the lot, that is where my client's house is and where the other neighbor's house is, are going to be significant and adverse. So even though there is no variance, for example, for gross floor area because the lot is so large, this is going to have significant adverse impacts on my clients. And you'll note that from that map you see there that the lots vary in size there. Some are larger than others. This one's one of the longest ones, for example. But still, what's proposed for this lot, is not only going to have significant adverse impacts on my client and the other neighbor, but it's also not going to be maintain and respect the character of this neighborhood, given its current proposed configuration.
Mr. Gully, you're done?
The owner of 335 answered my questions, Chair.
Thank you. I have one question as well. What's being proposed right now is removal of the existing garage, and the new garage will actually be to the east. So I'm assuming that in some way is that you don't see that as an improvement for your neighbor, for your client.
I mean, I think it may be a slight improvement, but again, you have to look at the nature of that use. As a garage, it's going to be used. It's in the front. Doesn't have the same impacts on light or privacy. It doesn't have the same intensity of use as a full-time house will have here. And so if you're looking in terms also of like design features, what this applicant could have done is instead of maintaining a garage out front, they could have shortened the length of the proposal by, for example, incorporating the garage into the house itself. So you'd have a house with a much shorter building length that doesn't have the same impacts. Well, they could still maintain parking on their lot inside a garage.
No, understood. I'm just questioning what's before us right now. I can't talk about what could have been. And I also note that the other neighbor, 339, we have a letter actually of support from that neighbor. Can you explain that? Or because you seem to be concerned about the impact on them.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for them or the negotiations that occurred between those neighbors, but I would think that those impacts that my neighbors are facing are going to be similar to 339.
Well, I would argue they could be more significant, but in any case, they're in support. So thank you, sir. Mr. DeGiorgio, have you come back now? Perhaps you can address some of the issues raised, particularly the driveway and the garage issues.
The driveway and the garage issue.
Or
Correct.
whatever you want. It's up to you, but that was
So
raised.
the driveway, as it's proposed right now, okay, has a positive slope. The zoning regulation requires the removal of reverse slope driveways. And so we are put to a test or to a requirement that adjoining neighbors do not have to face. Not yet, but they will when they redevelop. So we have a positive slope. And the way it's designed, we are going to have to go up 1 to 2 feet by the time we enter the garage. There has to be a ramp, a driveway in the form of a ramp.
Yeah,
Now,
I
that
don't
being
think that-
said,
I don't think
we're not,
that-
we're
but
changing it.
the neighbor's not concerned about.
No, they're
the
not
slope.
concerned about that because they don't realize what it looks like. We are changing that because we are, with the help of the transportation department, we are basically changing the entrance to the garage to the north wall of the garage. And that will necessitate, and that's part of the reason why the transportation department basically revised their report and said, look, things are being done in the form of improvements that are going to be addressed at the building permit stage and where the review under the building code becomes relevant. And so what I'm saying to you is, so addressing the variance, we're asking for 6.32 width of driveway where the zoning bylaw says 5.8 meters. Correct? There's an internal policy or bylaw with the transportation department that basically says, notwithstanding that the entrance into the garage is limited to a driveway of 5.8 meters or 8.8, whatever the number is, the policy says you are allowed to have a driveway with width from outside wall to outside wall. And that is about 6.3 under this application. Now, if we go through the north wall, we have to bend. The current driveway has to bend. What the transportation department is going to do is say, you know what? We have an obligation here. We have an obligation to move the driveway, move the curb cut over so that you can access the garage perpendicular to the garage. And that will remove probably a tree in the boulevard, simply because it's a necessity from a safety point of view. It is also a necessity for us, this applicant, to access the garage from a safety point of view through the north wall, because we can eliminate that escalating ramp. So there are all sorts of things that need to be done, and we want the variances approved to give us the flexibility to make improvements. Now, the length, I can assure you that the length will be reduced when it comes to a review under the building code length. And as a matter of fact, I will offer up a reduction in the length of 1 meter, because I know with my experience that when this goes through the building permit phase, the building code will say, by the way, the length is no more than about 26 meters. So if you are of a mind to reduce the length, my client does not have a problem in a moderate reduction, because remember that the official plan says moderate intensification is what we're trying to achieve. Moderate. We're not asking for variances related to, as I said before, bulk of the house, density of the house. These are long lots, and we're being forced to to recede the front wall of the house 60 feet. And that's what is the main driver in the length, because the length is measured from the front of the garage wall. It's not measured from the front of the house wall. What's measured from the front of the house wall is what's called building depth, which is the relevant parameter or zoning. Now, I will try and, let me summarize in this way. The zoning bylaw has a provision that basically says, in a situation like this, where someone is adding a house at the rear of the garage and they're seeking to relocate the garage, there is a provision that says you will have to build the house first. You'll have to complete the roof, complete the walls. Then we will look at construction of the garage or relocation of the garage. That is in the zoning bylaw. And that's basically what's being proposed here. Because in the building code review, there will be changes, and maybe the relocation of the garage is other than what we're proposing. What we are saying is we're going to the east side. Why? Because it has less impact on the neighbor on the east side, who happens to be in support of the application, notwithstanding that the intrusion into the backyard.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay, is worse for him than it is for. Now, let me wrap up this way. Drainage is a huge problem because of the grades on our lot.
I'm not going to get into drainage.
No, we're not, because it's a building code issue, but it is a problem with 335. They have a huge problem with potential drainage problems. I give assurance that drainage problem will be dealt with, not only to the satisfaction of the building department, but to their satisfaction. So
please wrap up, because
all right, Mr. Chairman,
don't waste your time on drainage because it's not going to help.
No, I understand that. But that's what the applicants are really, the opposition is really concerned.
Well, they didn't say anything about drainage, so.
No, I know they didn't. They said that let me focus on on my last comment.
Okay, you know what? Why don't you leave it there, and we've got questions for you anyway.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is, are you proposing to reduce one of your variances then?
I'm
Mr.
saying,
Chair, he can't make revisions.
no, I can't make a reduction. You can impose a condition to reduce the length by 1 meter, let's say, or 3 feet.
Well, that's not a condition. That's a change in the variance.
Yeah, you have that. You're empowered to do that. I can offer up that my client is willing to abide by that condition, by that revised variance.
Okay,
But
so we got it. Okay, I'll leave it to my fellow panel members for questions now.
okay.
No questions? Dominic?
Chair, I just wanted a conversation, if there are no questions from the members, with the panel. I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeGiorgio. We'll take it into committee then.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, Chair, there's no question that this is extremely difficult law to deal with, in my view. Looking at it from a planning point of view, I think from a transportation point of view, any issue that comes up is resolvable. And I think that that can, as far as I'm concerned, that issue can be parked. But indeed, the issues before us relate to the length, to me anyway, the length and depth of the building.
Yep.
But when you look at this whole street, if staff could possibly put that plan back up of the street, the map, all of these homes are going to have a heck of a challenge if and when they come up for redevelopment, regeneration, rejuvenation of their lots, because the lots are so long. And there's no question that the issue that planning highlighted, in my view, was the length and the depth of the building. When you look at the setbacks from the street, from Maple Leaf, I think the applicant has attempted, or the architect has attempted to step back the individual units, because the road does have a bit of an angle to it. So there is a step back effect from 339 to 337 to
Can we get the
335.
location map
So it
up on
does
the
step
screen?
back. So I can understand why the garage had to be placed where it did. And the impact would be on the residents at 339. But in my view, again, when I look at the plan, it does not project further than their homes itself, than the existing home that's there. As far as the length of the building is concerned and the impact in the rear, of course, it is longer, but this is a new home. Does it justify this length? I'm not sure. And I guess that's what I'm struggling with, is that these lots are so long and it is going to be so difficult to develop a structure, a home for the needs of a community, of a family, when they come up for redevelopment. I'm not saying that planning didn't do their due diligence. They do. And they speak about the fact that building length and building depth. I don't think that building massing, in my view, is an issue. And it's unfortunate that the lot frontages are not very wide, but the lots are very long. What do you do with these long? So indeed, the representative, Mr. DeGiorgio, had some difficulty in trying to convince us about the variances. The variances are required in order to accomplish something. But at the end of the day, everyone will have a different view. Obviously, the residents to the east don't have a problem with the proposed development. The residents to the west do, because obviously it affects them. Their house is a little older, and the house does extend much further back than their existing building. Again, a home that was built in the 50s. But I think we're going to have to face the fact that if this area needs to regenerate, redevelop, we're going to be confronted with these types of challenges. I'm not trying to convince panel members that planning in any way have just picked on building length and depth. When you look at it numerically, it is indeed a large variance when you look at it numerically. But what do you do with lots of this length? And that's a rhetorical question.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is a severed lot,
Yes.
however. Yeah. So, and I do believe, I mean, to look at the sad garage sitting there in the front, I do think that this application brings an improvement to an existing condition. Whether that warrants approval of the length and depth of the structure or not is up for debate. I don't know if community planning is right in this instance. I really don't, but I'm open to hear other comments.
Well, my 2 cents is I understand the length of the lot and the length being requested, but we have not been provided with any evidence by the applicant of
Comparable.
similar precedents.
Yeah.
And they haven't met the 4 tests.
Yeah, I suspect the precedents exist, but as you say, they haven't been presented to us. Yeah. Sorry, you've had your chance to do the application.
Mr. Chair, panel members, I'm inclined to agree with my colleague that we have to come, in my mind, back to the first principles, which is the 4 elements of the test, and whether those have been satisfied. And looking at the sheer calculations, the numbers, and taking into consideration planning's comments, I have concerns whether that has been satisfied or not.
No, the committee members are in committee right now. No one else is permitted to speak.
Anyone ready for a motion?
I'll move a motion to refuse the application as it doesn't meet the 4 tests.
Ms. McCoy?
I'm prepared to second that motion.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? Okay, the application is refused. Thank you. Do we need a 5-minute break, or are we good? Okay. I know it's we're just into the second item, but we're halfway through the morning, so. Okay, item 3, 230 Alderbray Avenue. Let me just pull it up. Okay, I've got a bit of a problem. I just lost my agenda. Hmm? Okay, we're going to have to take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Adam Presenter here. Maybe we'll take a break right till at least 11. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's now 11:06, so we're going to begin momentarily with item 3.
Okay, let us know when we're back on YouTube. We're good? Okay, welcome back. Sorry for more technical issues, our second round of technical issues today. Item 3, 230 Alderbray Avenue. This is a application to construct a 2-story south side addition, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, and a new rear deck with a 2nd-story addition above. There are a total of 6 variances being requested, and we have no comments from any other departments and or neighbors. And we have an agent, sorry, online or in person?
The agent is online and he has been unmuted.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Stumbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the welcome.
I think this is a simple one.
Yes, it is. Unlike the last one.
Okay. So I don't know if you need to do a full presentation, but perhaps you could give the members a bit of an overview, and then if there's any questions, we'll proceed that way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my name is Ozrin Stambuk. I'm at 15 Moreland Road, just for the record. And I would say that this is indeed a relatively straightforward application where the homeowner is trying to maintain as much as possible of the existing portion of the existing bungalow on the lot. And that's why we have this kind of interesting non-typical shape where we have the addition set back fairly a fair distance from the existing front wall of the house, which I think speaks to a lot of the variances and minimizes the impact of the variances, which are minor in themselves to begin with. So, you know, we have a slight height variance under the new bylaw. It's a little bit more severe under the old bylaw, but here we've tried to comply in the design with the new bylaw as much as possible. And I think that height variance is very much minimized by the fact that it's happening well back from the front wall. So in that sense, I think what we have here is going to have very minimal impact on neighbors. And then probably the most significant variance is the side yard setback of 0.82 meters. And this also speaks to the parking space variance we had, because we really wanted to add an enclosed attached garage on the side of the house, but obviously we didn't want to push the wall too far south, but we also didn't want to have too much of a parking space variance. So what we're proposing to you is a kind of balance of the two, and that's really the gist of it. But I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is anyone ready for motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve, because I think the application meets the 4 tests.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Laura, all in favor? Okay, we have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Steinbeck. Lost my pen. Okay, item 4, 23 16th Street. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are a total of 9 variances being requested. Forestry is requesting conditions 1 and 2 in the event of approval. We have an arborist report on file, and we have in the additional materials a reduction to variance 1, a reduction to variance 2, and some wording changes for variances 4 and 5, which I think we need to look into in more detail. Mr. Binkowski is the agent, I believe, and online. Adam, is he available?
I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Excellent, thank you. So perhaps we can start with what you're proposing to change, or what should be changed on variances 4 and 5. I think the concern is, are these changes going to constitute a notice issue?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, how I would address that is if we look at how actually variances numbers 3, 4, and 5 are written, the intent really stays the same. And what I would say is under 45-18-1-1, I don't believe new notice would be required because, again, the intent is there. If we read variance number 3, we see where it says the side made exterior walls facing a side lot line. The proposed dwelling will have a north and south. Basically, we have 3, 4, and 5 all identifying those 4 walls. It's just a wording change. Now, again, under 45-18-1-1, I don't believe new notice would be required because the intent of the actual variance remains the same as it relates to the side lot lines as well as the front. It was just a small wording change. In terms of the other changes being number 1 and number 2, they are reductions which would be.
We have no issue with those. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, under 4 and 5, and again, that massing has not changed from what was circulated to the public. So that massing is identical again to what went out in the public notice, as was also sent to planning throughout the process that led to the reductions of number 1 and number 2.
Okay. Barb, do you want to chime in on an opinion on that?
I'm comfortable, Mr. Chair, that the variances aren't impacted. It's just a nuance to the wording to make it correct.
Okay, very good. So then I guess it's a question of, do panel members have any questions? No? Excellent. Anyone ready for a motion? Ms. Popovic?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve in reliance on the basis of the changes in wording do not have an impact on the massing.
As revised then with?
As revised, yes, please.
And forestry?
And the conditions forestry 1 and 2 would be imposed.
Thank you. Seconder? Bill, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item 5, 35 King George's Road. And let me just find that one. Lost my cursor. So we have an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are a total of 4 variances being requested. Forestry is recommending refusal, or in the alternative, conditions 1 and conditions 2. Planning has a condition, should we approve, to tie to site plan. And we have letters of objection from number 37 King George's and number 358 Prince Edward Drive. The applicant is Mr. Franco Romano. Franco, are you on the line? I'm assuming he's virtual. Yeah, don't see him here. Thank you, sir. If you could do your presentation, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the panel. Staff can bring up my slides, please. This is a property that has it's on the south side of King George's Road, and King George's has a bit of a wave to it and some curvatures. I don't yet see my slides on the screen. Yeah, this is my my cover letter. It's not my presentation slides. So if you don't have my presentation slides, it's going to be a bit difficult for me to walk through this. This is very important. If staff can tell me if they have my presentation slides, otherwise I'll just start over, and I'd appreciate if my time could be stopped, please.
Let's stop the time, please.
Thank you.
It's number 5. There's nothing in additional materials. I don't see it.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Franco, I'm not sure if they were sent over from you. I received the TPZ and the as of right plan, as well as the cover letter and arborist report and the signed documents, the signed declaration.
I see. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Adam. I'll just walk through it with my cover letter then.
Can we reset the time then?
Much appreciated. So this is an perhaps if you can bring up my cover letter, that'd be great. So this is an application that involves property on the south side of King George's. You'll see on the property map on the screen right now that the street has a curvature to it. The front lot line runs at an angle. It's about a 45-degree angle. And what that property map shows is that because of the curvature of the street, it's quite common for buildings to be located forward and behind one another. The two neighboring buildings on the subject to the subject property clearly illustrate that condition. Number 37 King George's off to the left or the west side is fully in front of the existing dwelling. That building currently has a building depth that is at least 18.4 meters as measured pursuant to the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw takes building depth measured from the front yard setback line, so it runs at an angle through the lot. It does not run from the front wall to the rear wall of the building. The other neighbor, 358 Prince Edward, has a building depth and length that is in excess of 20 meters. It approaches 23 meters. So this is not a conventional building depth and building length condition. A proposal for the building depth of 21.86 meters runs from the northeast pinch point of the dwelling to the southwest pinch point of the uncovered patio in the rear. And if we go back to the site plan drawing, you'll see that the actual building length and depth from the front wall to the rear wall is 15.24 meters along the east side, and that is less than the 17 meters that's permitted, less than the 19 meters that's permitted, and that is a reduction from what was in front of a differently constituted committee of adjustment panel that had a previous east side wall of 17.07 meters in length. So you'll see that the building fits forward and does not extend as deep into the lot as a neighboring building at number 358, which has a longer length and depth. Along the west side, the building is 17.37 meters, and that was 19.07 meters under the previous application. And that 17.37 meters is further reduced because the second floor is only 14.07 meters, and the ground floor is 15.24 meters on the other side, as I indicated. So it is a sculpted building, and it's a sculpted building, so then it responds to how the lot creates that 45-degree angle along the front. So in terms of the building itself, we'll see that the overall building height is 9.5 meters. That is a reduction from what was previously proposed at 9.8 meters. The wall height is at 6.48 meters, which is less than the zoning bylaw permits. And the gross floor area that's being proposed complies with a maximum 0.5 permission. 0.47 is what is being proposed, and has a variance to allow for an additional 37 square meters of gross floor area. So it's 150 square meters plus 29% of the lot, whereas 150 square meters plus 25% of the lot is permitted. When we look at, in my cover letter, I have a table, the Appendix 1, that shows a number of properties along King George's, Prince Edward, just the couple of streets clearly show that GFA and FSI variances of a comparable and larger measure have been approved. And thank you, that's an attachment 1. So it's quite common to have variances of gross floor area or floor space index together with other variances, including length, height, lot coverage. In this case, there is no lot coverage variance. Rear yards and both side yard setbacks are fully zoning bylaw compliant. In the previous application, there was a side yard setback variance of 1.37 meters that has been removed. So what the proposal does is fits in with that existing pattern of staggered building condition. And in terms of urban forestry, the city tree requires a 7.5 meter tree protection zone. The dwelling itself does not impinge upon that tree protection zone. The driveway impinges on it for part of the driveway where there's a 4.5 meter distance from the base of the tree. So it's not a proposal that will result in the removal of the city tree. Subject to any questions.
Can I just get you to sum up, please?
Yeah, subject to any questions, I submit that the planning staff condition of approval is appropriate, and the conditions of approval that urban forestry have submitted are also appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I believe we have 2 neighbors requesting to speak. Both of the same 2 that were submitted letters of opposition. Christine Sendig, I believe, is in person, so I'll ask her to come up first.
Good morning. So I find myself.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I find myself back here again.
Sorry, before you start, I forgot.
Christine Sandick, 358 Prince.
Great, and we'll get you to reset your time. I just negated to mention that this application, there was a previous application which was refused at the committee in July of 2023. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So while I am grateful that the setback to my side of the neighboring there was no variance and they sort of got away with that. They did away with that, sorry. There's still some issues of concern that I have. And just to note that my house was built in 1940s, so any current zoning laws that was built before that. I'm going to encapsulate length and depth in the maximum permitted GFA. So currently they're requesting 150 meters plus 29%, but there are 2 things that are involved. There's the attic, which they note is uninhabitable. However, if you look at the plans, the staircase and the elevator go, there is insulation, there is egress, there is HVAC. The mechanical room is right below the plumbing from the second floor bathroom. So I know in the original plan it was supposed to be a crafting room, and I would suggest that this is going to be a very habitable space. That should be included in the GFA, which it is currently not. Then we're going to look at the depth for a second. What was originally the wine cellar room is now just a storage space, but that is also not in the calculations, and it should be. And I'm just going to make a little note about depth. So when we had met at the community adjustment and it was refused, my neighbors reached out to me via email and said, we've made these changes with this side, which was very gratefully appreciated. And, there were a few reductions in length. So I asked them about the depth. And they wouldn't tell me, oh no, it's got to be in calculations. Oh, we can't, you're going to get westerly light or southerly light. So I, in good conscience, I can't agree to something when I don't have the full set of information. And that was a bit disturbing because it is going to still be a lot deeper and a lot wider, and it does take up a lot of the lot. The length, the agent mentioned staggered. Sure, it's staggered. They're moving it 6 inches ahead, and they're still keeping a lot of the length. It's 23.18 if I read it correctly on the letter that I got. Now, I know it's not a variance, but so imagine that they're moving closer, sure, within the bylaw. It's a bigger house, so that's kind of dominating my building. and I know it's not a variance, but you have to consider a 10-foot, 33-foot in length cabana on my side that towers over my backyard and which has a bathroom. So I also look about privacy and enjoyment, reasonable enjoyment of my property. Inside, I will not be able to enjoy it because the way they've structured their windows, it's all going to be looking into the few windows that I have on that side of the house. I don't think I'll be able to enjoy my backyard at all. Again, I know it's not a variance, but when you put this all together, right now there's just a garage. So with their proposal, it's going to be everything but that garage, which faces my mudroom. Okay, I think I had something else I wanted to say, but I think I've said it all. It just, yeah, okay. I think that's it.
Thank you. Don't go away, just in case, any questions from panel members?
Just for clarification, Christine, yours is a side yard, not a backyard, is that correct?
Yeah, it's not even a full backyard, and I have a fence, which is on my side of the property, and I have a very small side yard. And so the part that's closest to them is a little patio, and that's my backyard, basically.
Okay.
So I won't really be able to, and I can't make another patio. Anyway.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And we also have another neighbor online, I believe, Adam?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Chair, we have Carol Arundel, who I have just unmuted.
Carol, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Excellent. I have limited length on my phone. I'm calling from another country. I'm Carol Arundel from 37 King George's Road. And the reason I'm calling from another country is because of the adverse impact that this will have on my property as well. As they pointed out, the properties are set back, and number 35 is very fortunate to have what is in essence the double lot, which means the square foot allowance is already much higher than one would have in a regular sized lot. The length issue, the depth issue, and the square foot affect me in the same way they do the other property on Prince Edward that Christine spoke about. We've raised concerns in our letters about the additional likely space that appears, almost usable upstairs that isn't included within. But I'd also like to point out that the square foot calculation is based on the double lot. It's not based on a single lot. So it's already larger, and the variance makes it significantly larger. We will face for the full, almost the full length, as I've shown in my letter, an almost 3 foot, full length, 3 floor building with multiple windows. It starts before my property ends and continues almost to the end of the line. And while there's a slight setback of the roof on the west side, the staircase, which is quite wide, continues straight up. So it's not much of a setback. As well, the sunroom at the other side and the dormer window from the 3rd floor also serve to bring the house out further. So all in all, it is having and will have an adverse negative impact on us in terms of privacy, in terms of built form, square footage, and the length and the depth of the building. While there are other houses in the area, as was pointed out in the agent's letter, those square foot variances were based on the smaller lot, not on the larger lot. And many of them, as I note, I tried to research some of them, many of them are from some time ago, not currently. And the other note, just to point out, is that it doesn't conform with provincial housing policy. It is in fact in contravention of the policy because it results in a net reduction of bedroom space and family size. So I hope you will, you've had a chance to read the letter, look at the photos I've included, and I thank you for your time and for your consideration today.
Thank you. Please don't go away just in case we have any questions. Panel members, any questions for this neighbor? No? Okay, thank you, ma'am. If we can get Mr. Mr. Romano back.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adam or staff, if you can bring up drawing A3.4, please. The west side elevation. So in the previous application, I'll just deal with the fenestration first on the west side. In the previous application, there were 14 large pane windows on this elevation, many of which were on the second floor, and the staircase had double pane windows. What you see in the revision, despite the fact that this entire west wall is lower than what is permitted under the zoning bylaw in terms of height, virtually zoning bylaw compliant in length and depth, is that there are now 4 large pane windows, 2 of which are in the staircase, and those are in the middle of the building. So those are not habitable spaces within the building. That allows for westerly light to penetrate the building. I think care and attention is being paid by the owners to minimize the amount of fenestration on the side wall. The other windows are on the ground floor, and those round or oval windows are to secondary spaces. So despite the fact that this entire west wall could have over 7% of the wall as fenestration, there is less than 4% in fenestration, and that is being cognizant of the concern that the neighbor has, because the building, this wall is adjacent to the rear yard of number 37 because of that staggered condition. So in my view, this minimizes impacts, and it is sensitive to the neighbor. In terms of the gross floor area request, it is a difference of 37 square meters, and we'll see that GFA is proportionate to lot area. And so there are a number of properties that are smaller and several that are also larger, including across the street, that have received gross floor area variances that are comparable, if not larger, than what is being proposed in this instance. So this is not a large gross floor area request for the subject site. In terms of the relationship of building to building, clear on the site plan and then the location map that it is common when the street is on an angled condition that buildings are going to be forward and behind other buildings. And I think the proposal has a sensitive method of mitigating that impact, not only with the fenestration, but it's sculpted and articulated footprint, so that when one is looking to the side walls adjacent to neighboring buildings, the length and depth of the buildings are strikingly close to or smaller than what the zoning bylaw would permit for if one were to take the conventional measurement from the front to the rear. And that is sensitive, and I think it's recognized by the staff report that says that the street curvature along King George's Road results in irregularly shaped lots, which sets 35 King George's further back from 37 and does so with other lots along King George's Road as well, and that the proposal represents an improvement to the previous application, and that the length of 17.37 and 15.24 meters, which is what one would perceive, particularly from a neighbor's perspective, is appropriate, and I think that's in page 2 of their staff report. The rear yard for the 358 Prince Edward Drive is fully open relative to the dwelling. There is no dwelling adjacent to the rear yard in number 358. 358 is basically adjacent to the rear yard of the subject site today. So that would be a comparable condition to what we see along the street. The cabana, there are no variances. There were variances originally on the previous application, so there are no variances associated with the cabana. And once again, it's my opinion that what is being proposed here is proportionate to the lot. It is a dramatically reduced and more sensitive design than what was previously before the Committee of Adjustment. And I would submit that the variances should be authorized. I will also submit, Mr. Chairman, that variance number 4, the electric vehicle infrastructure variance, can be deleted.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that at the end of your summation. Okay, thank you. Any questions from panel members? So you are asking to delete variance 4 then?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
Please delete variance number 4.
Any questions? No. Okay, so we'll take it into committee for discussion.
Sure, I'd like to speak on this item. Chair and committee, I have carefully reviewed all the material on file with respect to this application, as well as the others. I have listened very carefully to the justification arguments that the agent has provided to us today verbally. I have also listened very carefully to the comments and concerns of Ms. Sandy and Ms. Rundle with respect to the revised proposal. And I'm convinced that the revised proposal has substantive and insightful changes made to the original proposal of June, July of 2023. I actually want to commend the applicant for a revised proposal that proposes a structure that sensitively fits into the challenging lot and character, build form and character of the immediate community, as well as the neighborhood generally from Bloor northerly. I think Mr. Romano used the word sculptured, and I really do believe that the variances that are before us today are variances that have been carefully reanalyzed from the original proposal to come up with a proposal that is indeed fitting. I believe that the tests under the Planning Act are met, and I want to move approval and authorization of all the variances with the exception of variance number 4, and subject to planning conditions and urban forestry conditions. With those 2 conditions, Chair, move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. So it's forestry conditions 1 and 2. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong file. 2, no, it's still 1 and 2, because there's also a forestry memo requesting condition 1 in the event that we approve. Their first choice is to actually refuse. Okay. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Bill. All in favor? Okay, so we have approval. Anyone opposed? Sorry. Okay. Okay, so the application is approved. Thank you. Okay, I'm assuming we're okay to continue through the rest of the agenda, or do you guys want to break at some point? No? Okay. All right, so item 6 is an application to construct, where are we? To construct 2 one-story industrial buildings. There are 2 variances related to parking. The address is 111, 131, and 151 Steinway Boulevard. And the agent is Benjamin Larson, who is online.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Larson. I'm a principal planner at Larson & Associates Limited, and the address is 90 Spring Azure Crescent, Oakville.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. I'm not sure if we need a full presentation, but perhaps we'd certainly need some highlights on this one.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to give just a high level. So what you have before you are two highly technical minor variances. The owner has gone through a logical and orderly process, complete with site plan control, zoning review, and then before submitting to the C of A, and that's where we are today. There are no objections on file. There's a city transportation staff report recommending approval of the parking related variance. In my opinion, the variances allow for a highly desirable intensification of a core employment site with new industrial condominium buildings. Again, it's been thoroughly reviewed by city planning, zoning, and urban design staff. I submitted a thorough planning rationale and presentation outlining how, in my opinion, this is a good thing to happen on this site, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? No?
If no one has any questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Please.
I believe this application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act, especially since transportation is weighed in as an okay now, and move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you. Seconder?
I agree and second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, approved unanimously. Thank you, sir. Our next application is item number 7, 20 Lambton Avenue. This is an application, lost it again, to construct a 3rd-story addition above the existing dwelling and a 3-story rear addition. There are a total of 4 variances being requested, and there is opposition letter from number 7 Denison Avenue, and there are no comments other than advisory comments from Metrolinx. There are no city department comments on this application. And Sal Creamy is the agent online. Mr. Creamy?
Yes. Yes, good afternoon, Mr.
Good
Chair.
afternoon.
Sal, address 2572 Eglinton Avenue West, and a good afternoon to committee members and attending public and Committee of Adjustment staff.
Thank you. I think we're still in the morning, but we're getting close to the afternoon. Barely. Just before you get into your presentation, just I have one question, and that's with regards to variance 1. Is that an existing condition? Sorry, you still there?
Sorry, I was unable to mute, Mr. Chair. Yes, they are existing conditions. If you want to refer to the survey that's provided along with the site plan, you'll see that all variances pertain to the east side lot line, which is just a continuation of the existing east main wall,
No,
and where all the variances are stimulated from.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just want to confirm. Thank you. Do we have any? There's no one else here in opposition, so do we have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. This looks to me, it's on Lambton Avenue. It looks to me like an old storefront. Is that correct?
Part of my research, I didn't uncover that from what I saw the site visit, and you can see also through Google Maps if anybody wants to see. It looks like an existing residential house. I haven't got any information from the client or in my research that it was a storefront.
Okay. And there will be a unit in the basement. And can you tell me a little bit about, access and windows if there is going to be a window, a unit in the basement? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, this is an application that the team as a whole is really excited about. As everybody knows, the city is facing a severe shortage for rental stock. This is aiming to provide up to 4 units. They're still undecided if the 3rd story is going to be a dedicated unit unto itself or it's going to be included as part of the 2nd floor. So right now we're showing it as if it could potentially be 4 units. Right now, for sure, 3 units. Access to the basement unit is going to be provided primarily from the rear of the property through the walkout stairs, which you can see on the foundation plans. The windows as well will be provided within the basement. One will have to be an emergency exit that will most likely be located at the front of the house or the sides towards the front, so that there's two forms of exit. That'll be satisfied under the Permit Submission and Building Code Act. And with regards to any, though that kind of pertains to the basement unit through you, Mr. Chair. And as terms of windows, nothing is being proposed on the east side, as it's very close to the lot line. As such, there's concerns about fire rating. Inevitably, there's only one window being proposed, and it's on the west elevation on the 3rd floor. Other than that, all windows will remain existing. I hope that answered your question,
Okay.
Member Alderson.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay. Anyone ready for a motion?
Can I, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Before getting to committee, just one thing maybe we can have an open discussion on. One thing that really surprised me was the Metrolinx advisory comments. I tried to reach out to the staff member who submitted the comments to discuss it, because it's inevitably asking for an easement to be provided onto the property. Now, respectfully, I do ask that we maybe have a brief review and a discussion on it, because it will severely limit the future potential of the property. As you can see, there's sufficient room to possibly come back to committee to construct another house if the owner so finds the funds in the future to further supply the rental stock. And I'm worried that with that easement in place, it's going to severely limit that. Nor can I logically see the reasoning for such an easement by Metrolinx. The property's far removed from both the Kitchener GO line and the Eglinton LRT line.
Okay, sorry, is
Realistically,
planning or transportation requesting an easement?
Metrolinx.
Metrolinx, okay.
Metrolinx.
But we can't dictate what Metrolinx wants or is asking for. You'll have to deal
No,
with
we can impose
Metrolinx.
a condition, correct?
We're not, we understand that we typically don't impose conditions for Metrolinx. We're treating it, we're treating that as an advisory comment.
It's also pretty standard.
Okay.
It's something we see a lot
Yeah, it was
of.
just a logic. But it's okay. I don't want to further delay your time.
I don't think that's going to prevent you from building anything. I think it's just essentially for you to be aware of their presence more than anything. And you're going to need to deal.
Because they're asking.
Well, you're going to need to deal with them on that, not us. That's we're not going to tie their comments to our approval.
That was my end gain, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
Chair, I do want to warn, though, you realize that they are conditions from Metrolinx, and you should have discussions with them. As Chair indicated, we're not going to impose conditions, but you might be on guard and have those conversations with Metrolinx. They usually have comments that are standard comments, that are warning comments, and then they have conditions. So in this case, they do have conditions. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Member Gully. I know I did try to reach them several times. It was unsuccessful. So the end goal is to have a conversation with them.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming there's no one in the room to speak to this item, and there's no one online as well, Adam?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Sal is the only speaker.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take it into committee then.
Chair, prepared to move approval of this application. I believe the 4 variances that are being requested are indeed the nominal, appropriate, desirable for the development of the site. Move approval with no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Seconded
By Bill?
by Bill.
He beat me to it.
I saw you reaching, but that's okay. All in favor? Okay, approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our next item is number 109 Goswell Road. And this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are a total of 4 variances being requested. We have conditions being requested from forestry, condition 1 and 2. planning is basically saying they are okay, and there are no other comments from city departments. Trevor Gain is the agent and speaker, and I believe he is online. Adam, do we have Trevor?
Yeah, Trevor, you had indicated in your registration that you wanted to participate via video, so what I'm going to do is make you a panelist, and you can authorize the use of your video at this time. Trevor, you're muted. I'm going to unmute you, so you just hold tight for a second. Okay, go ahead.
It's all working out. Good morning. Good
Hi.
morning, Mr. Chair, committee members.
Good morning.
I'm Trevor Gain.
So I don't think we need a full presentation. If you would like to do a quick summary, and then if members have any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So the application, like you mentioned, is for a new 2-story single-family dwelling. Basically, we have a house and we have trees, and when you mesh the two together, you end up with a proposal that you have in front of you. So we have a corner lot. There's also a very, very large tree in the front corner, and it's sort of a proportional thing that the house, as of right, could come closer to the street, making it wider, thus shorter. But because of the size of that tree and its tree protection zone, the house became narrower and longer, and that generated the rear yard setback. It generated the building length variances. And then also there's a large front yard setback, required front yard setback at 9 meters. And on average, City of Toronto is about a 6-meter front yard setback. But because of the adjacent house, we're already 3 meters back in the lot. And that puts us very close to that rear lot line. So when we put it all together, we end up with a proposal, but we do think it's fairly sensitive to the area, sort of in keeping in size and massing of what you're seeing on new houses. And it's also respecting the trees quite heavily. So I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Good summation. Any questions? No. If not, we're ready to go into committee. Anyone ready for a motion, or is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I will move to approve. I think the application is relatively straightforward and meets the 4 tests.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Laura, you beat Bill too at this time?
I did.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
Are there any, sorry, Chair,
Yeah.
Forestry conditions?
Yes, there are. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
There are 2
Just
forestry
got that.
conditions,
Friendly amendment. Urban forestry conditions, yes.
1 and 2.
1
Yep.
and 2.
We were just talking about trees, and we were
we
happy
were.
that the applicant
And
addressed them.
I
And
just
then,
wanted
yeah.
to make note of the fact that the applicant has gone all out to protect that tree in the front, and I think that's great.
Okay. So noted. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Gain. So our next item, number 9, is 8 Princess Margaret Boulevard. And let me pull that one up. Okay, this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 2 variances being requested, and the agent is Christine Brown. Forestry is requesting condition 2, and planning is requesting that should we approve that it be tied to the elevation drawings. Christine, you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and we're into the afternoon now.
Just about.
Just a bit, almost. I don't think we need a full presentation, but if you can hit some highlights, and then if there's any questions, we'll have panel members ask. Thank you.
Sure. We're basically just asking for the 2 height variances are tied together, obviously for the soffit and the overall height. We have a lot that has a side-to-side slope, so when we take the height from the established grade, we end up with about a 1.4 meter difference in height, which just compromises the overall height. On the left side of the house, we have a new fairly large 2-story, and on the right side of the house, we have the neighbor is a 1.5 story, and the neighbor on the right side at number 6 provided a letter of support, and if I was to be concerned or of any of them, they would be the most compromised, affected, and they expressed their support. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No? Any motions? Mr. Gully? Sorry, that's
Sure, Chair. Two variances being requested, as the applicant agent explained. They relate to height. I believe both variances that are being requested are nominal, appropriate. Move approval, subject to the planning condition and urban forestry condition 2.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thanks, Laura. All in favor? Okay, we have unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Okay, our next item, number 10, 31 Mariposa Avenue. This is an application to make interior alterations to accommodate 2 secondary suites. There is only one variance, and it has to do with more than one secondary suite not being allowed in a semi-detached dwelling. The applicant, gotta go to the next page. Bruno Lopez is the agent and applicant, and I'm assuming Mr. Lopez is online.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Bruno Lopez. I'm Excel Engineering and Associates, located 1649 St. Clair Avenue West, and we are here on behalf of the owner.
Okay, good morning. Just before I let you go, I'm going to just note that Forestry is requesting condition 3. Metrolinx has advisory comments, and I just want to confirm you're not asking for any exterior work on this?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Just interior.
Perfect. So I don't think we need a full presentation. I think we get the idea. Is anyone here to speak to this item or no?
I do have a question. Because this is a semi-detached dwelling, we don't have a letter from the other half, do we?
No.
Neither in support or not in
opposition.
support. Have you spoken to your neighbor, your immediate neighbor, about
Through
this?
you, Mr. Chair, yes, absolutely. This was done in concordance with the next door neighbor. He's happy to have the development happening. He has no issue with that. However, he was not prompt to provide a letter or so, just kept himself absent from the meeting, I guess.
But you have spoken with him?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's no surprise, no.
Okay. All right, anyone ready for a motion or some discussion?
I'll move a motion to approve.
Okay.
As I think it does meet the 4 tests.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
And subject to forestry.
Subject to, yeah, thank you. Dominic, thank you. All in favor? Okay, that's a unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Our next item was deferred. So the next item after that is item 12, 3 West Glen Crescent. And just get that. Okay, this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 2 variances being requested. Forestry is requesting conditions 2 and condition 3. Planning is requesting tying to site plan in the event of approval, and we have an arborist report on file. And we have in-person applicant.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here. My name is Harpreet, and I'm here on behalf of my client to present the application for 3 West Glen Crescent. I'll give a brief. The client wants to demolish the existing house, and we are proposing a 2-story detached dwelling with attached garage. And the current zoning is RD zone, and we have actually tried to maintain all the zoning standard bylaws except 2 that we are proposing and requesting for minor variance, which is The FSI, the permitted is 0.45 and we are at 0.54. And there's a maximum building length, which we are proposing for 19.94 meters, and the permitted is 19 meters. These are the two variances, except that we have maintained all the variances for front, rear, and the side setbacks. The lot coverage, I think that's it that what I want to highlight on the application. For the urban forestry, we have already applied the application to urban forestry, and I consider the two conditions, the number 2 and number 3. And whereas the height is concerned, we are maintaining the heights as per the zoning bylaws, and that's it. These are the two variances on the application. Thank you.
Any questions? Nope, seeing none. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Taking into committee, anyone ready?
Chair, I prefer to move approval of the application subject to urban forestry condition and the planning condition. I think the two variances that are being requested are very nominal. I think they're appropriate, meets the 4 tests. Move approval with the 2 conditions, planning condition and urban forestry conditions 2 and 3.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Seconder? I think it was Mr. Dalton. Okay. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous approval. Thank you. Okay, item 13 is 15 Duran Street. Am I pronouncing that correct? I don't know. Duran? Dern? Give it a whirl. Okay. This is a application to construct a new detached garage with a garden suite above. There are a total of 4 variances being requested, and planning is requesting that we tie to the elevation drawings in the event of approval, and there's an arborist report on file. Oh, it's back to Mr. Binkowski. Okay. I thought we had already done that one. Jonathan, are you on the line?
Good afternoon, committee.
Good afternoon. Not hearing you right now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Jonathan Minskowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Okay, fairly straightforward. Don't think we need a full presentation. Just some highlights, and if you're ready to answer some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a larger lot, being 13.56 meters in frontage by 42 meters in depth. That can accommodate the variance for the increase in the size of the garden suite. Even with that increase in the size of the garden suite, we are in excess of all of the side yard setback, both to the north as well as the south, as well as the rear yard setback. I did provide some presentation material that kind of highlighted the location of it in terms of where the proposed building is, in terms of where it sits with the requirement for the side yard setbacks. So in summary, even with the request to add the extra 8.2 square 8 meters into the garden suite, we are in excess of all of the side yard setbacks, as well as the separation from the building to the proposed garden suite. In terms of the height, it is only for a portion of it. As we see there, it's for kind of the dotted out portion that is a cantilever on top. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Anyone ready? Bill?
I'll move a motion to approve. I think it meets the 4 tests and subject to the forestry condition.
I think it's
Oh,
planning.
sorry, planning.
Okay. Approval subject to planning condition tying to elevations.
Yep. January 23rd, 2024.
I'll second that. I just want to comment. Great architecture. Thank you.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you. And we're into the afternoon. Number 14. "35 Aurelie Boulevard." And I need to find my file here. Okay, to construct a new, this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are a total of 3 variances being requested. Forestry is not happy with this one. They're recommending refusal, or in the alternative, a condition 1. And there are no other department comments that I have seen. The agent is Enzo Lucasano. Mr. Lucasano.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair,
Good
committee
afternoon.
members. I apologize, I wasn't able to connect, so I'm doing this over the phone. So I can't see what's on the screen. We had discussions with forestry. The issue is, I guess if staff can pull up the forestry report or the photos that we submitted for the tree. It's regarding a 2-inch city tree that's located in the boulevard or on the city side of the property. We've had discussions. The initial idea was we were going to relocate or have city relocate the small tree in order to make room for the driveway width that we were requesting. After further discussion with them, they feel that we can adjust the driveway without the relocation of this tree, and they were supportive of that idea. So with regards to the variances, the front yard setback came about by bringing the house flush to the neighboring house on 33 in order to give additional space at the back for our property, as there's 2 large fruit trees in the rear that the client would like to retain, and we'd like to increase the green space at the back since there's ample green space at the front. And we don't have any variances for front yard landscaping. The variance for the side yard setbacks is well in keeping with the setbacks in the area, which average anywhere from 1 meter to 1.5 meters. The coverage, again, is well within what's in the area. We found houses closer to 38%, but again, this wasn't about size; it was about the use and creating a space for the homeowner, and trying to increase the green space around the house itself. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. I think you answered the question I was about to ask. I was just wondering if you were to move it back to eliminate the front yard setback, would you be creating a rear yard setback? But that isn't really your issue. You just want to preserve some other.
No, well, the issue was to maintain more green space at the back, because as you can, again, I can't see what you're looking at, but the green space at the back is very small. And we were trying to push it as forward as possible, but we didn't want to go in front of number 33, which sort of forms a line down the street.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Average.
Yeah, I'm looking at your backyard now. It's not huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
And I believe that the driveway reduction on the city side can be easily retained, since the tree is only going to require a 1.2 meter protection zone. this is an easy fix for us to maintain the tree in its current location.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone have an opinion or a comment or ready to go? Motion? Motions are good.
Chair, I'm going to make a motion. Three variances before us. One relates to coverage, small coverage increase from 30 to 34.18. Front yard setback, I think very justified in terms of trying to line up the buildings. And side yard setbacks at 1.52 is only 0.28 difference. I believe the tests are met. Move approval of the application subject to urban forestry condition number 1.
Okay, seconder? Don't fight over
I
it.
will second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lucasano. Okay, I'll ask one more time. Shall we motor through, or do you guys want a 10-minute? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to keep going then.
You're okay?
All right. Fine by me. Yeah. Okay, so item 15 is 8 Grimsby Crest Court. And this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. Sounding familiar. This one has only one variance being requested, and it has to do with the rear yard setback. Agent Bill Hall, online. Mr. Hall? And there is an arborist report on file. I have I don't see any comments from any other
Forestry.
no forestry, no planning, no other departments.
Bill, you have been unmuted. Mr. Hall?
Do you want to hold?
Yeah, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, maybe let me, William, are you with us? Do you know what, Mr. Chair, maybe we'll have William exit the meeting and maybe
come back again?
Come back. Yeah, William, just as a note, let staff mute and unmute you. But we'll try one more time, and if this doesn't work, maybe William can exit the meeting and join in via telephone or something. William?
Well, give him 2 minutes.
He's been unmuted, but I'm not hearing anything.
Okay, let's come back to it.
Okay. William, please exit the meeting and try joining in via the telephone connection information that was provided yesterday. Thank you.
So item 16, 219 Rustic Road. This is an application to construct 2-story front and rear additions, a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, a carport along the east side of the dwelling, a covered front porch, and a detached garage in the rear yard. There are 5 variances being requested. Forestry is requesting condition 2 in the event of approval. Transportation is chiming in as okay. And we have letters of support or form letters of support from neighbors. The applicant is Mr. Joe Dome, or the agent, sorry. And he is online.
33 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owner.
Joe, welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We also have another speaker noted here is Ross Leto. I'm not sure if he's in support or opposition, or Joe, do you know who Ross is?
No, I do not.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see what happens then. Okay, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, do you want me to check in with Rose?
Sorry, Rose. Let's get. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay, so Joe, I'm gonna mute you, and I'm going to unmute Rose. Rose, you're now unmuted.
Did you hear me?
Yes, my apologies for misreading. I need to wear my glasses. Just, ma'am, are you here in opposition, in support, or wanting some questions, or just we just want to check in with you?
I just want to listen.
Okay.
So I don't have any opposition. I just wanted to hear.
Okay, so you don't want to speak to it then?
Correct.
Thank you. Joe, you're back on again.
Yes. Would you like me to make a presentation? I think there's just some important context.
Yeah, well, I think maybe perhaps a summary. I'm not sure if you need to do a full presentation.
Okay. Well, the owners would like to construct a two-story front and rear additions, a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, and a rear detached garage to accommodate family needs. There are 5 variances requested here. For context, this is a large lot which has a rear portion extending behind both adjacent neighbors, and this is a similar condition for 3 other lots on the south side of Rustic Road to the east, and to the west. The dwellings from 207 to 187 also have lots that extend all the way to the rear. Variance number 1 refers to the proposed front yard setback of 8.76 meters, and I'd like to highlight there's no consistent front yard setback along Rustic Road. The setback mainly pertains to a second floor box window, while the majority of the front yard setback is set back 0.61 meters further. And the dwelling is also slightly angled compared to the front lot line, increasing to 9.73 meters at the northeast corner. Variance number 2 refers to the proposed east side yard setback of 0.62 meters, and this is mitigated by the fact that the variance pertains to the southeast corner of the dwelling. The setback widens to 1.04 meters at the front northeast corner of the dwelling. And it also primarily applies to the second story, while the first story maintains the existing setback and does not affect access. The dwelling is only 14 meters in length and is not requesting any overall height or main wall height variances. And variance number 5 refers to the proposed rear detached garage area of 81.75 square meters. And this is consistent with other existing similarly sized or ancillary structures, such as 5 properties west at 197 Rustic, across the street at 220, and 2 houses west at 207 Rustic Road. There's actually a much larger rear yard ancillary building, and this ancillary building is right next to the rear of the subject property. The owners have spoken to all their surrounding neighbors, have received 13 form letters in support, including from both adjacent neighbors at 211 and 221 Rustic Road, as well as the 7 neighbors directly across the street, which are on file. Planning staff have no concerns, and overall we feel the application is quite reasonable and minor in nature, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Nope. Okay. Any opinions?
Always.
It's an interesting shaped lot for sure.
Okay. I'd like to move a motion. I think the application meets the 4 tests subject to the forestry condition.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Seconder.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Laura. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Dome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do we have, do we have number 8, Grimsby, back? Or?
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe we'll give Mr. Hall a little more time and we'll hear them at last. So next we'll go to item 17. Yeah.
27 Herney Hill. Sorry? We just did 16. Hern Hill. Number 27. Okay. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 7 variances being requested. Forestry is recommending refusal, or in the alternative is looking for conditions 1 and 2. Planning is requesting that we tie to site plan in the event of approval. The applicant has provided an arborist report, and there are a couple of form support letters and a support letter from number 29, Herne Hill. However, I'm mispronouncing it. And Marian Zabzuni is the agent. Mr. Zabzuni, are you on the line?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. This is Marian Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay. I think we do have another neighbor on the line.
No, through you, Mr. Chair. The only speaker on this item is Marin.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong item again. Okay. So, Marian, I don't think we need a full presentation. So if you want to hit some highlights, and then we'll see if there's any questions.
I'd be happy to. So we have worked with city planning. They are in approval for this application. The homeowners have talked to a lot of the neighbors. They're all in support. They want to build their family home here. And what I'd really like to address is actually urban forestry. I just want to make sure that the committee knows that we believe urban forestry has reviewed this file in haste, as the proposed variances have no relevance to the trees on the property. I'm happy to even elaborate on this. Essentially, the front yard setback has nothing to do with this tree removal. The house respects the streetscape in terms of front yard setback. The property line is substantially angled. We aim to be respectful in positioning of the house, as illustrated on our site plan. The majority of the house actually complies and is behind the front yard setback requirement. It's only a very small portion on the right, as you see there, that triggers this variance due to the angled property line, but it is matching the streetscape, of course. And we also made sure where we proposed our driveway, we actually safeguard and protect the city tree. And we have definitely achieved that. So this variance has no relevance whatsoever to the tree impact over here. In the other comment from forestry, in regards to the side yard setback and building depth. So the tree in the rear of the property line is located at the as of right footprint. Where the house is located actually complies with the zoning bylaws in respect to both side yard setback and building depth. The side yard setback variance is only at the front portion of the house, and that's the reason that planning is proposing to tie it to site plan, just to make sure that the variance is only approved where we're proposing and not changed towards the back, which is quite typical of city planning. Building depth is also triggered due to a very small portion on the rear from the way the property line is offset on an angle. We do comply with building length, which is very important to note. So the variances requested have no impact on the trees. We're very confident we can clear this up with forestry during the application process. And as mentioned, city planning is on board along with the surrounding neighborhoods. So we strongly believe this application does meet the 4 tests and is minor in nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
So, Mr. Rosolini, I gather then you have no issues with respect to us tying it to urban forestry, should this application be approved?
Planning.
Correct?
So, Mr. Zabzuni, you're okay with forestry conditions 1 and 2?
We're okay to submit to forestry, and we're okay with the conditions from city planning, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone ready for a motion?
Chair, I'm prepared to move approval of the variances being requested. I believe that the variances that are being requested are appropriate. I think they're not in any way denigrating in terms of what the bylaw requires. The lot is a large lot with very irregular shape, but the proposed building is a very, very nice building, and I think it fits into the community. Move approval subject to the planning condition and urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Gully. Seconder?
I will second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Zabzini.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to item 18 before we come back to
Sorry, through you,
search for
Mr. Chair.
Hall.
Just a note on item 18, the only speaker on file will be the agent, Marco Razzolini. The neighbor at 2 Shortland Crescent sent an email indicating that she did not want to speak,
Okay.
just observe, and she's no longer on the line.
Okay, thank you. It's 18. So this is number 1, Shoreland Crescent, an application to construct a new detached dwelling, a covered deck in the rear yard, and a cabana in the rear yard. There are 4 variances being requested. Forestry is again chiming in with a refusal, or in the alternate, conditions 1 and 2. We have an arborist, we have 2 arborist reports on file. I think one is initial and then one in response to the forestry comments. We have support letters, a number of support letters. We have a letter of objection from number 2 Shoreland, primarily focusing on the issue of removal of a tree. Marco Razzolini is the agent, and I believe he is online. Adam, do we have Marco?
Yep.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, Chair and
Good
members of the
afternoon.
committee. Marco Razzolini here from Socorro Design Inc., 94 Lakeshore Road East, Unit 201, Mississauga.
Thank you. We're going to need a presentation. I'm not sure if we need a full presentation or how do committee members feel.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe
Let's
I'll
go,
start
yeah.
off with Forestry's recommendations. So
Please.
we are aware of their report and letter that they've submitted. We had tried speaking with them on a few occasions before submitting this application, as well as throughout the design process, but we were unsuccessful with trying to get a hold of anyone. We were able to meet with them on Tuesday of this week, and they recommended that we would either have to defer or move forward with the application if we're approved, worked with them for a solution on how to deal with that tree that's located on the driveway. I think we want to move forward with the application today. We believe that there is a solution, and we tried to discuss this with them on Tuesday. I think worst case scenario, we can reposition the driveway in order to maintain the city tree that they have concern about. We did run this by them at the meeting earlier this week. They couldn't provide a recommendation, and they just said, move forward with the application, and if you're approved, we'll work out a solution. We're happy to accommodate the conditions if we're approved today. The variances that they have, to a further description or
Sure.
answer any questions.
I think we'll just go for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Agent, I do have a question. So, and I just want to understand your position. Are you, if I heard you correctly, are you proposing to reposition the driveway to save the tree, which would satisfy urban forestry's concerns over removal of a bylaw protected tree? Is that the same tree we're talking about?
Yes, exactly. That's the same tree, and none of the variances are related to that tree or the driveway.
Okay, so in other words, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you are representing on behalf of your client that you can reposition the driveway, which will satisfy urban forestry. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Thank you.
So just in that way, Mr. Rossellini, you know that it's going to be extremely difficult to relocate that driveway because relocating it closer to Shortland Crescent will be right at the intersection, though, eh? So I think you got to work feverishly with urban forestry. Correct?
Yes, and so
you wouldn't want to put that driveway right at parallel with Shortland Crescent from a safety point of view. You might have some issues with transportation services. So I'm just raising that as a point.
Yeah, and so the repositioning wouldn't be closer to the intersection. I think what we would be proposing would be reducing the entrance along Hartsdale down to one car entrance and then having it flare back out once we pass the tree.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds like a resolution. There's no one else to speak on this then, just confirming. So anyone ready for a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the representations of the agent and the concerns about the urban forestry, I do move to approve. Are there any other conditions?
Forestry.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I can second that motion.
Okay, Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Rossellini.
Back to 15.
So back to 15, if we can find Mr. Hall.
So Mr. Hall, oh, he's here. Okay, great. Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Welcome.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Let me find the item.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Just hold on one sec.
Yep.
So this is
Well, Mr. Hall, can you hear us?
Hello?
Mr. Hall, can you hear us?
I am here.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you very faintly.
Oh.
Okay, maybe try turning up the volume on your device, but we can hear you, so that's good.
Okay, so number 15 is 8 Grimsby Crescent and Court. I don't know, abbreviations. To construct a new, the application is to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There is one variance being requested. Mr. Hall, if you could give us a brief overview of the application.
Yes, my clients have asked me to design a new 2-story dwelling, which we have done, and is a highly irregular lot, as you've noticed. And many of the calculations for setbacks, et cetera, in the rear yard are not standard. So the rear yard setback, which is the only variance we're asking for, is projected as a skewed line, is a projection off the rear yard property line. We're asking for basically 0.72 meters of relief, which works out to 28 inches.
Yeah. Very minor. It's a very minor application.
I can just hear you.
Sorry, I'm saying it's a very minor application. You've provided an arborist report. There are support letters. There are no letters of opposition, and there are no comments from other departments. So I don't think you really need to do much more of a presentation for us, unless there's any questions.
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any questions.
Please, Ms. Alderson.
I believe this application meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act. Very straightforward, 5 form letters of support, and move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you. Seconder? Bill, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Hall. That concludes our morning session. Sorry, so we got to figure out what time we're back.
Mr. Chair, what time do you want to resume or begin the 1 p.m. session?